Alright, if you've started this training series and you don't have Blender yet, then shame on you. Now just kidding, if you guys need to get Blender, then pause the video here and go to blender.org. There you can download the executable and run the setup. Now once you do, restart this video and opening Blender should give you this screen. Alright, we'll click off to the side of this splash screen and we can see the default Blender GUI or GUI. If this is your first time in a graphics program, this is the moment where you look at all these buttons, you scream, you close the program, you uninstall it, and you run away and hide from it. The very first one I ever had was Photoshop, and that is exactly what I did. Now it may look a little overwhelming at first, but Blender is actually very intuitive these days. We'll take it piece by piece. Soon you'll be flying around in 3D space. For now, let's break down what we see in this default arrangement. When Blender opens in its default settings, there are 5 separate panels that are available called editors. Each of these editors has a menu line located at either the top or the bottom of the editor. Let's start at the top of our scene and look around. The first editor at the top is the Info editor. This gives us a window-style pull-down of options that should feel pretty familiar to everyone. It also has information on our layout, our scene, our renderer, and we have a few other options, but we'll dig deeper as we go along. For now, just remember Info editor. The next, moving clockwise, is our Outliner editor. In short, this maintains an outline or hierarchy of everything that's in our scene. Below that is our Properties editor, and as you might have guessed, here we can edit the properties of objects in our scene. At the very bottom is our Timeline editor. This is where we'll work with animation. And at last, we reach the elephant in the room, our 3D Viewport, or 3D editor. This is where we'll manipulate our 3D scene visually. You might think that the panel on the left is yet another separate editor. This is actually a tool panel in the Viewport. The Viewport has 2. This one, which is visible, and one that's hidden. Let's learn our first couple of hotkeys by hiding and unhiding these panels. First, we'll unhide the panel we can't see by pressing the hotkey N. As you can see, that brings up an additional properties panel for our viewport. But now we don't have much room to actually work with our scene, so let's hide that by toggling the N again. If we want even more room in our viewport, we can toggle the T key to hide our tool panel as well. Note that I'm using toggle to describe these hotkeys because that's what these are, keys that toggle. Not all of the hotkeys we learn in the future will be. Now, let's talk about some ways to recognize and change our editors. Each editor has 2 tabs that allow us to manipulate that editor or to change it completely. Let's look at changing them first. In the upper or lower left of each window is a small gray box with an icon. Let's try the icon at the lower left of our 3D viewport. If we left click on it, a window will pop up showing all of the editors that are available to us on the interface, 17 in total. Let's change our viewport to the UV layout panel. Excellent. Now, let's change it back so we're back in our 3D viewport. Now, it is likely to turn out that we're going to need that UV panel somewhere down the road, but we still want all of our current panels visible. Panables, it's a new word, you'll like it. We want all of our current panels visible. So what to do? Well, let's customize our layout a little bit. First, let's hover on the side of our Properties panel until a double arrow appears. By clicking and dragging, we can resize any of our windows. This method also works vertically. Now let's put that back and look at splitting a window so we can see that UV editor. If we look in the upper right corner of our viewport, we can see a ridged tab. If we hover the mouse over that, it changes to a cross. By clicking and dragging horizontally, we can drag out a duplicate of that window. We can then change it to the UV editor that we're looking for. Just like resizing, we can also do this vertically. Let's create another panel by pulling down on the widget this time. Another UV editor appears. But what if we want to collapse these? All right, that's easy enough. We can take over the space of any panel with an adjoining panel, so long as it uses the same space either vertically or horizontally. Let's hover our cursor again, and this time pull our cross into the panel we want to take over. You can see that a gray arrow appears showing the direction of our move. Now, let's do that again by moving our viewport back into the space occupied by the UV editor. Well done! That's going to conclude the lecture part of this video. Let's do a quick review. We've learned about our default layout and the different panels: the info, outliner, properties, timeline, and viewport. We've also learned how to change panels into other panels, as well as how to resize panels and how to get a completely new panel. We've also learned how to change them all back again. We've also picked up on a couple of our first hotkeys, as Blender is very hotkey intensive software. All right, we've learned, we've reviewed. That means it's quiz time. After each question, pause the video and try to answer. If you can't, consider rewatching this segment. Question 1. Name the 5 panels in the default layout. Question 2. Which hotkey toggles the Tools panel in the viewport on and off? Question 3. Name the panel that we use to work on animations. All right, I hope you did very well. If not, try going back and rewatching till you're sure you can answer all 3 of those questions. If you nailed them, I'll see you in the next video.